Hello, I am Nanda Klein. I am from Brazil and I moved to the United States 15 years ago. The last 6 years I've been living in Miami. As many immigrants, when we come to a new country and we try to adapt to a new culture, we tend to linger in our own origins. June 12 is the day Brazilians celebrate Valentine's Day. As I went to sleep, my mind took me on a journey, dreaming of a fanciful voyage. Shortly after 2 a.m., an incomprehensible act that represents everything that goes against love occurred. When I woke up Sunday morning, my body suddenly became paralyzed as my mind, in a state of shock and nearly unable to process any information my ears were fed, tried to make sense of the images on TV. My eyes froze. The words I heard weighed heavily in my heart. While I dreamt, I realized other beings were living a true nightmare. A shooter had killed 49 people at a nightclub in Orlando. On June 11, it advertised a Latin night. When I saw those images, I had a very hard time digesting them. I remembered in 2007 when I had just moved here. I was in Louisville, Kentucky for 2 months and I saw the news about Virginia Tech and I was horrified because we do have a lot of crime in Brazil, but that's not something that we see there very often. I didn't want to feel the hate I was feeling. I didn't want to feel the anger and the rage. So I began to think. So I began to travel back. And I remembered when I was a child, when other kids would make fun of me and not want to be friends with me because I was fat. But instead of feeling angry or hating them, I thought to myself that there was just something wrong with that. Like, how could somebody value me based on my appearance? There was so much more to me than that. So I learned that some humans can be very hypocritical. When I became a teenager, I didn't feel like I fit, but at a certain time I didn't really want to fit anymore. I want to be my own thing. I didn't want to be long. I didn't mind being different because by that time I learned to embrace myself. I learned to accept who I was, regardless of my imperfections. I chose not to hate, but I couldn't help to see the irony. And I saw many ironies throughout my life. When I moved to the United States, I came here to learn English. My dream was to find a job at a big city like Rio de Janeiro. Destiny had different plans for me, and I ended up meeting my husband. In the 8 months I was living in Kentucky, he was the first person that knew that Brazilians do not speak Spanish, but they speak Portuguese. We got married, but before getting married, I went back to Brazil. The plan was for him to graduate from school. When I got my visa, my fiancé visa, we had 90 days to get married. Within 24 hours of our marriage, we were told we should get a divorce by a relative of his. But that didn't come as a surprise to me, because a few days after I returned from Brazil, after leaving everything I knew behind to start a new life with somebody, I didn't know if I was going to work out in a country I didn't know much about, in a culture I had to learn to adapt to. I was afraid of failure. I was afraid that things would not work well and I would have to pack my bags, go back home, and start from experience. But before we could get married, my fiance almost put me in an airplane and sent me back because he's a good person and because some of his relatives didn't accept the fact that he was marrying a foreigner. He felt like he was doing something wrong. He didn't want to disrupt his family. He didn't want to upset his parents. But before we headed to the airport, he told me that that's not what he really wanted to do. And he realized the mistake he was making. The first years of our marriage were very challenging. In Louisville, for many years, I was treated by many citizens with disregard, as if because I'm an immigrant, I didn't deserve to be treated like everybody else. And that includes some members of his family. I was accused of marrying for a green card. I was also mocked for my accent, but I didn't hate any of his family members because first, I was already used to rejection by this time of my life. I'm already 24. I've been experiencing rejection for over 15 years at this point. And like with the kids that used to tell me I was too fat, I had to feel sorry for them because you choose to have a specific mindset. You choose to believe that you're better than somebody else because your place of birth or because of the color of your skin. And honestly, to me, that shows more than ignorance, a lot of insecurity. I finally had the opportunity to move to California. My husband was offered a job at Silicon Valley, and we lived there for 3 months. By that time, we already had a child. She was 1 year old. I used to take her to playgrounds, and I recall listening to people speaking in many different languages and differently from how I felt when I was in Louisville. When people stared at me and they gave me dirty looks as like, hey, where is this, alien from? Not in the sense of an alien from another country, but from out of space. And honestly, I didn't want my daughter to grow around that. After we returned, we decided there was a time for a change, and we ended up moving to Miami, where we are very happy, and I feel like I belong. I feel like people get it, and you know what? It feels pretty good to belong somewhere. By that time, I reached the end of my quest to find peace of mind, to get rid of the rage I was feeling. Sometimes life is not going to be fair, and we're going to have to learn how to put our pieces together and build a stronger version of who we are. And despite those lives being taken, their memories can be erased. Their legacy can be erased. In my recently published essay, I go on to say, just as I believe happiness starts within, change is something that comes from the heart. While we don't have control over how others feel or behave, we certainly manage our own lives and mindset. Consider that for each bad deed, there's plenty more good. Moreover, what happened June 12, 2016 wasn't about the victims. It was about the one who chose to live in darkness. Don't allow yourself to waste any time hating. Such degrading feelings cause the most harm in ourselves. Instead, continue to wake up every single day with the goal of finding joy in every moment lived, while allowing time to reflect and to learn from difficult times. If there is one thing I've learned along my personal journey, is when it comes to life's challenges, it's more about how I choose to face such adversities rather than how frightful they might seem. In my opinion, it's a matter of determining who I will become instead of allowing myself to be a recipient of whatever happens or is done to me. I could make the decision to grow from it despite how profound the pain inflicted in me might have been. It is vital to learn how to seek light and combat darkness. There's no way to change the past. The pain, the anger, and the unbearable feelings of having your hands tied need to be settled to survive in a world where inevitably there will be hurt. It is vital to learn to seek light and combat darkness, while the lives that were unfairly lost can be recovered and they might no longer be physically among us. Their memories and existence in the minds of their loved ones shall remain their legacy. They're very much alive with every single heartbeat of the ones who miss them the most. Every time their smiles come to mind, love will prevail. They will never be forgotten. There is no place for darkness where the light continues to shine. A life can be prevented from continuing, but not from once existing. Don't ever allow anyone to dim the powerful light that rests in you.